Well, I'm here today with the wonderful Anne-Marie Ketchum, who is the founder and artistic director, is that correct, of the Verdi Chorus of Southern California, Santa Monica specifically, or Southern California?
Well, we've been in Santa Monica for our full time, so I would say Santa Monica, but our audience comes from all over Southern California. So
I bet they do. I bet they do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to talk to you now since you're having your 38th anniversary. You've come out of COVID, and is this your first performance since COVID live?
Yeah, first live with the full chorus. Yeah. And it's pretty amazing. It's all kinds of things we have to get through. With singing is so dangerous, they say, and we know it is. So
yeah,
so we're doing rehearsals and concerts with masks, but we're singing and we're together and we're making music. So hey,
that's everything.
It's glorious.
Well, I'm sure the audience feels the same way. Everywhere I go online, people are, God, I wish I just could go to an opera or a concert or something.
Yeah. It's true.
It's much better live, when you really feel the people and the passion and see, you can see music as well as hear it in public, which, when it's on video, sometimes this rolls by, right?
Well, for me, the difference is that you're in the same room with human beings, which are creating it at that moment. And there's something very different about that in the moment. And also, as you say, you not only hear it, but you see it. And sometimes you hear more when you can see. I mean, yeah. I noticed that going to the Philharmonic concerts. I was just at the Philharmonic this last Sunday, and it's just so different when you see the human beings up there. But I was just thinking about this and actually talking to somebody. When you go to a concert, you experience that music intellectually and emotionally and also physically in 3 different ways, and they all come together to be a complete experience. And you don't get that when you're just listening with headphones or,
No, it's true.
YouTube or something.
I mean, as much as I watch performances on YouTube and Medici TV and stuff like that, it doesn't change the fact that when you're in the room, you actually start to breathe with the ensembles.
Exactly.
Whether it's a chorus or an orchestra, you just kind of find yourself being like, oh.
And when the sound is strong, sometimes you can actually feel it in your chest. I mean, physically, the vibrations are hitting you. It's going in your ears. But you feel it in your body, and it creates an emotional response. And you have to figure out where you are and how does this relate to the next phrase and what do the words mean in opera or vocal music. And so there are all these different ways that we experience life, all happening at the same time when you're in the room.
Yeah.
It's different.
It is different because you're really living. Now, 38 years, and you're the founder. So the Verdi Opera Chorus, why did you start with Papa Verdi? I know why, because of course Verdi is one of the greatest opera composers of all time. I love him. His choruses are phenomenal and life-changing. Va Pensiero always makes me cry. And of course all the other very famous choruses. But why did you zero in on Verdi to start your ensemble?
It was actually an accident that was a very lucky accident. We started at the Verdi Ristorante di Musica in Santa Monica on Wilshire, which was, I don't know if you ever went there or knew about it, but it was a high-end, really lovely, elegant restaurant with a stage. And anytime you would go, you would hear like 3 or 4 opera singers doing several sets of music. There would be an opera set, maybe a musical theater set, and then late night, some lovely song things, but opera singers. And this is not a restaurant where the singers were also waiters, not at all. I was one of the singers. We were just there to put on shows. We had a company of about 25 singers, and you'd hear 3 or 4 on any night. And the owners thought, well, we've got this restaurant going and we've got all these people coming in regularly that love opera. Maybe they'd like to sing it. So they came up with this idea of having an opera chorus at the restaurant. And since I had some background also in conducting, they asked me to run it. And so we did. And eventually the restaurant had to close. That's what happens with restaurants, you know.
Yeah.
But the chorus members didn't want to quit. So they came to me and they said, can we keep it going? And I said, I'd love to. And so several of them put up some feed money, some basic seed money to start it. And we got it going, and we went to several different venues, moved around for a while, and ended up, you know, where we have been performing for a long time at the Methodist Church in Santa Monica. Now, because of COVID, everything is kind of weird and different. And so this time we are at the Presbyterian Church in Santa Monica, but that's how it started. I kept the name because it's Papa Verdi.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world to me. He also, his choruses are the most excerptable.
Mm-hmm.
And many, they begin and they end, they are pieces within themselves. They are dramatic within themselves. They are lengthy pieces in many cases.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, you talk about Mozart, who's, you know, I mean, you could say Papa Mozart for the same reasons, but the choruses are secondary to the principal singers. And in Verdi, the chorus is a very important part of the whole story.
It's a whole character, right?
Exactly. So there's so much incredible music written for the chorus. So it just made all the sense in the world. And I almost always include Verdi in the program. We do music from all different composers, but there's almost always at least one Verdi piece. And of course, Va Pensiero is sort of a theme song for the group.
Absolutely, yeah. Right. It's probably one of your encores, even, right?
Well, yeah, when we do an encore, it's often that. It's very thoughtful and quiet, so it doesn't work as well for an encore. But I love performing it, and every time we do perform it, I absolutely require that the chorus memorize it. So we have sung that piece in many concerts. We have sung it at birthday parties. We've sung it in a parking lot. We actually did it on kazoo one time. I mean, it's a thing, okay? Yeah,
it's a signature piece. I get it. Well, that's Va Pensiero is a lot easier on kazoo than maybe Fuoco di Gioia from Otello.
Although I love performing that piece. It's such fun.
Isn't it?
So fun. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So what have you got planned for your 30th anniversary concert post-COVID? Are you blowing the roof off?
I don't know, maybe, we hope. Although we're all wearing masks, so it's, but interesting, for the last quite a few years, I would choose a theme for a concert and then kind of work the repertoire around a theme. I mean, one time it was fire and spice, and I did Delilah and Carmen, and so this time, first time back, I just wanted to do pieces that were important to me, or pieces that I love. No particular theme, except that I just wanted to do them. So we're starting with the Aida Grand March because it's big and grand opera, and I just wanted to start with a bang,
That's a bang.
Yeah. So we will move on and do a couple of other pieces from Aida, including the finale, that really incredible duet.
Wow.
Between the two principal singers, the three, because Aeneas is also part of it. And the chorus is in the background there, and it's just so exquisitely beautiful.
It is.
Then I am doing a set of two pieces which are unrelated to each other, but I've related them. And that is the Dido and Aeneas with Drooping Wings.
Oh, wow.
Which is, Purcell, it's early music. It's pristine, beautiful, emotional loveliness.
Yeah.
And then the humming chorus from Madame Butterfly. And as it turns out, the two are in the same key. So I'm doing a segue. So it becomes one piece. And
wow.
The idea, and I will speak just a little bit before, we do those two pieces, the idea is to have a kind of a reflection moment of all that we've been through, all that we have lost, lives lost, so many things, being able to be together. And it's sort of like my version of a moment of silence, but it's a moment of with drooping wings and humming chorus, and they're both so beautiful and both so different and from very different periods, but somehow they relate to each other in such a lovely way. So that will be there. And then we're going to close the first half with Mefistofele of Boito.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah.
He learned well from Verdi, didn't he?
Of course he did. He helped Verdi out, I think, a little bit as librettist. So
absolutely.
So we'll do the Witches Chorus, which is crazy, wild, fun. And we'll close with the ending of the opera, where all of humanity and all of the heavenly angels come together and end actually in a very powerful unison, and in doing so overcome the Mefistofele, the devil character. In other words, overcoming the evil that can hurt all of us.
Wow.
And it's a powerful piece. And I just felt like this is exactly what we're doing right now by doing this concert. By being together, we are overcoming. All of the world is trying to get through this thing.
That's right.
And as time goes by, we're getting closer and closer as we work together. So it made sense to program that piece, which is a powerful piece.
That's beautiful. I mean, it's so healing of you to think of it that way. I mean, people, that's what we need in the concert hall, is healing, wonderful feelings like that. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Second half of the concert is Pagliacci, because I love it. And because I have a great tenor to sing the Vesti la Giubba, and a soprano and a baritone that will do a fabulous job of the Ned da Silvio duet. And then there's the bell chorus, and there's the big son qua chorus and all of that. And then we'll close with Carmen. Because how can you not? Can you not? Carmen, one of the greatest pieces on earth. So and our mezzo singing Carmen is Audrey Babcock, who is known for that role, and she's kind of a wild one anyway. So I think that's going to be great fun.
Wow. Are you like doing the whole fourth act or something like that? Or
no, just excerpts.
Just excerpts.
Yeah. So the entrance, the chorus entrance into the Habanera, which includes the Cigarette Girls chorus, which is delightful. You hear the smoke rising through the voices and and then her cool. Habanera and the Gypsy Trio with two of my section leaders singing along with Audrey. And we'll end with a Toreador song with Roberto Gómez, who does a hell of a job of that piece. Really.
Wow. That's fantastic. What a great finale. People are going to love it.
I love it. So there you go.
So you also the maestra then?
Oh yeah.
That's wonderful. Now your audience, of course, they are used to this, right? You probably have an audience spanning the 38 years, right? That come and gone, of course, but
yeah. And we have some chorus members that have been here the whole time too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, once somebody gets into the chorus, they generally stay for a long time.
Oh, I would.
Well, come. We also have some wonderful young singers. We have the section leaders who are, we have 15 actually young section leaders who are like at the beginning of their career, or maybe they're doing their master's degree in opera, or, various levels. And they're tremendously helpful. And they can also do performances outside of our concert. So that's great too. And then we have apprentices that come and sing with the chorus for a season, and they each get a scholarship to help them with their music studies. So to either buy scores or to pay for lessons or recording for an audition or whatever it is.
That's so great.
So we can bring in some young people and teach some new things. singers, as you know well, when you start out, your voice isn't ready to do big Verdi or big Boito. But this is a way that these singers can learn this music, learn these operas, without hurting their voices at the beginning. So they will be familiar with it. They're learning all this stuff.
Yeah.
And having a beginning paying job at singing. So it's, it's a wonderful opportunity for them.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that because, back in the day, in the late 80s and early 90s, there weren't a lot of opera opportunities for young singers.
Right.
The LA Opera and a few companies that would come and go, but that was about it, and there was competitions like the Lauren Zachary and all of that, but it wasn't like there was an apprentice life. Even LA Opera was late to the apprentice game, as I remember. Yeah. And so that's amazing that you're doing that.
Well, and there weren't very many of those like LA Opera, that sort of level, but certainly nothing even below that level, helping you to get into that level. So, we've got two levels in our organization, the apprentice and then the Fox singers, the section leaders. So, I'm really happy that we're able to build the knowledge with the next generation like this. I think it's great.
It is, and I actually feel very excited about the future because there are more and more young people getting interested in opera than before. Mm-hmm. Which I think is interesting because it's like you would think that everyone says opera is dying, which of course we know it's not. People say, oh well, the arts can't sustain itself, which they can. It's just and so young people kind of discovering this stuff on TikTok and on Instagram and Facebook, especially during the pandemic, there was a lot of opera discovery going. Oh, yeah. I used to have a radio show in the LA area on Dash Radio, and I always got queries from young people asking for opera shows. And I actually did opera shows on Twitter. They would ask me to do them, and I would do opera disasters, Perle Neri and stuff like that for them. But there was a lot of interest. So, and people want to express themselves in something other than hip hop these days. And that's not a slam on hip hop. It's a viable art form as any other. But I think it's interesting to think of people swinging back to this, the idea of perfect voice, resonant voice, natural voice.
I agree. I think that human beings need challenges, and finding this perfectly beautiful resonant sound is a challenge. And then when you hear it, there's just something else that happens in the brain, I think, when you hear a perfectly formed voice singing in these beautiful melodies. I think it's a different kind of challenge. Yeah. And people grab onto that. I know in my group, they certainly do. I run a pretty fast rehearsal and a challenging rehearsal. And I know when I was coming up, that if it wasn't challenging to me, I was gone. I'd go do something else,
Right. You'd get bored.
Who cares? Yeah. You want to be challenged, and then you want to be really proud of something that you created, that you put together at the end. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, well, that's the thing. You actually, the thing about opera is you, and I say this with all the sarcasm involved, but, an actor acts and they can put on many faces and many roles. A Broadway singer can shape their voice into anything they want for character and stuff like that. But the opera voice is pure human voice. You can't fake it. You either have it right or you don't.
Yeah.
And that's a huge challenge. It's a great balance of body to air to mind, and I love it. It's so great. Yeah. So you yourself, you were a singer for quite a while, huh?
Yeah. And I did a lot of different things. I did a lot of chamber music. I did opera. I did a great deal of contemporary music. It was I married a composer. Okay, so
oh, that'll do it.
Well, it was after I was already in love with creating something new, is what it was. Something that had never been done before. I was always really fascinated by that. And to relate that back to the resurgence of opera, there's so much new opera being composed right now. It's really exciting, and that's part of, I think, why it's strong for its future. is because we're not just going back to the 19th century. You know, we are creating new things all the time, and some of it's junk, okay, and some of it's really astoundingly marvelous and good theater and beautiful sound. And, you know, I mean, that's exciting. That's exciting.
It is, because, you know, it was always like that, right? Because there were bad composers. I mean, you know, Verdi was one of many composers who we don't even know anymore. I mean, who talks about Mercadante, you know? You know,
and then there were others that you and I have never heard of. So there you go.
Flash in the pans, you know, I mean, but it's great that people are trying. You know, we've been so excited about Terence Blanchard's Fire Shut Up in My Bones at the Met, because it's just so groundbreaking, you know. And Terence Blanchard has integrated choruses. He has, you know, a modern feel for what opera is, and it's still very entertaining, you know. It's marvelous. And of course, you know, I love the work of, like, you know, Mark Hamill and Paul Moravec, you know, even his Shining opera, the horror opera, you know, is innovative and new. And I just feel that people need that on the stage. You know, it's like, yeah, bring them stuff from Netflix, why not? And then mix it back up with all the operas that went before, you know, because it's really getting used to the voice, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's more difficult to sing, obviously. I mean, you don't have a major chord going to a 5 chord, et cetera, you know. It's challenging, but it's also really exciting and very theatrical too. You know, the ways that the voice can be used and the instrumental accompaniment can be used. And theater, the look of it, you know, you go back and look at Wagner and how he changed theater. It's still being challenged, you know, in the new pieces now. I mean, years ago, I saw the Sarajevo Loin d'Amour at Santa Fe, and they had the whole stage covered with water. And it was stunning. It was so beautiful. But, you know, who would ever think of covering an entire stage with water? You know,
well, only Santa Fe, where they love to do that. They love to bring.
Great, though. It's great.
Well, speaking of Wagner, I mean, it is named for Verdi, you know, but it's not abhorrent to be doing Wagner choruses as well, right?
Of course. Yeah. Remember when LA did the Ring Cycle here, and they did the whole Ring Festival, and we were part of that. We actually, the chorus was part of the opening ceremonies of the Wagner Festival here in LA at the LA County Art Museum. But that year, I did a concert of Wagner and Verdi. The first half was Wagner, the second half was Verdi, because they lived at the same time. They were rivals in a way. They wrote completely differently, and so it was an interesting prospect to do that. And it was wonderful. It was really received well.
I love that when people do that, because it's true. I mean, they were complete contemporaries, you know, and they were sneaky about listening to each other's operas. I remember a story of Verdi going to the first Italian premiere of Lohengrin and sitting in a box with the score in his hand, going, what? You know, taking notes. And Verdi did eventually compose everything by the end of his life. Yeah. You know, so I love those stories. I love Wagner, you know, sneaking around, getting Verdi scores, you know, and being interested in this, you know, of course, the French opera scenario that neither of them very much liked.
No, but you learn that way, and you develop your own self by listening to other people, you know. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I suppose that was a large part of why each one of them grew, is because they weren't just locked up in their own room doing their own thing, but listening and finding things. So
your 38th anniversary, how do you feel when you think about that? I mean, you know, because I know that anniversaries can always be a bit of a shock. You know, it's like, have we really been doing this that long? You know?
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know how I feel. I guess I feel old. I don't know. No, I don't actually. I don't feel anything. I just feel like this is amazing. It's always surprised me, actually, that I mean, I don't understand the whole thing. People tell me various answers to this question, but why has this group been so strong for so long? I'm not really sure why. But it has been. And I don't know, it's just opera. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's because of the way we run rehearsals and that it's all a complete joy. Maybe because we're working with stories and theater, even though we're not staged, it's theater. And so every piece that we work on, we talk about what's going on in the story at that time. I don't know. It's just been an absolute joy from its very beginning, and it has grown and grown and grown. So I feel wonderful. I feel very fortunate. I feel very happy that it's happened, and I'm always kind of surprised that it has. I look, okay, at 38 years, okay. I mean, why does a group last that long? Something is right about it. Is it the music? Is it the camaraderie? I know, being in a chorus is something unlike any other kind of group, even more so, I think, than being in an orchestra or being on a baseball team or, whatever it is that you're doing. There's the way you gather together to create something with your body, and it's great, fine art, and you work hard and then you create something that you share with the public. It's kind of a magical combination. And I don't know, we gather together on Monday nights and we have a fabulous time every Monday night. I mean, there's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of work. As I said, I run a pretty challenging rehearsal, and so there's no dead time. At least I don't think there is. We go pretty quickly, and get a lot done. And we've got incredible resources, Boito and Verdi and Bizet and Leoncavallo and Mascagni and Puccini and all of this. How could that not work? But still, it surprises me.
It is. I used to sub. I was a ringer for the May Festival Chorus in Cincinnati a couple of years in a row, and their bond was so tight, and their look at the music and helping each other. It's like, no, this is staccato, no pianissimo, and then of course, people, they get to work their voices even as part of an ensemble. It's like, when you say you want, like, bocca chiusa, you got these people who are like, bocca what, and the others are like, no, just close your mouth and sing like you normally would.
And I'll tell you, because we're doing the humming chorus, that is bocca chiusa, your mouth is closed. However, there are ways to make better sound when your mouth is closed. And so there's a technique to it. So we're talking about a technique, and we try things, and I give them suggestions, do this or whatever. And then they hear the sound change. And so that's exciting too, where each of these singers come in, some of them with much more experience, some with much less. They all have to go through an audition process. So I know that I've got a group that can handle what I hand to them. But it's a variety of beginning skills, and they gain skills as they continue through, being a part of all this. And so that's kind of cool too. That's kind of exciting. You hear a person get better and better and better,
Well, that's singer, when you're a soloist, you're like, well, I'll never sing in the chorus. But then you find in the chorus that, I'm actually improving my vocal technique, and I'm learning new skills, and I'm getting better at being with people. You can't put yourself on a pedestal,
No. And you can try things out, and it's not just your voice. And so you don't have to get embarrassed about it, because you're kind of hidden in a group, and you can like try to sound better like the guy next to you, and you try this and that, and you learn, you get better.
You sure do. Well, that's wonderful. Well, I'm so excited for you, and I'm excited for everything that you're doing. The repertoire sounds amazing. Tell me just a little bit about, you told me about the mezzo Carmen that you have. Who are some of your other soloists?
Well, the soprano is Shana Blake Hill, and she's just a wonderful personality who has a voice that can do Aida and can do Micaela and can do all these things.
Wow.
She over the years, she's become a very good friend of mine. She's also a writer. She's written a book
Wow.
a history book about her great grandfather. I think it was her may have been great, I'm not sure, who was an African American physician who also started a bank. I mean, it's an incredible story. At a time,
Wow.
none of this, you wouldn't believe that any of this would happen in an African American community, but he was a very powerful person that created a lot of opportunities for his people. So she wrote a book about him, and it's available on Amazon. And so in addition to being a really phenomenal singer, Shana Blake Hill is a very good writer and a very deep thinker. And so she's an interesting character.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's our soprano. Our mezzo, as I said, is Audrey Babcock, who's marvelous, wild kind of Carmen type. And I'm really excited to have her do this. Our tenor is Alex Boyer. It's a big voice. He's sweet, warm, cuddly kind of big man. Okay.
I can relate to that.
Okay, I probably could. But I also was excited to have him come because he's one of the few around here that can do a great Vesti la Giubba, the aria from Pagliacci.
Very intense, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't get a chance to program that very often because it has to have the right voice. So I was excited to have him on. And then our baritone, Roberto Gómez, who is a favorite of mine. I've hired him many, many times. He's a crowd pleaser. He's delightful on stage. Wait till you see him and hear him do the Toreador and all the various other things that he's going to do. He's one of my favorite people. See, I've been doing this a long time. I know a lot of singers. I know a lot of really good singers. And this time, for this concert, because we're just coming back, it was important to me to pick people that are really close to me, that are not just really fabulous singers, but are dear to me personally. And all four of these are. Particularly, I've been dear friends with Shana Blake, I call her Blake, for many years, and with Roberto. For less time with Alex and with Audrey, but they're all four deep thinkers, wonderful singers, warm, loving human beings. So because you've worked with a lot of singers too, that makes a difference in a performance. When you have someone who has that kind of human sense and understanding. That comes through the interpretation of the piece that you're singing. And that's something that's very important to me.
Yeah, well, it makes a bigger impact to the audience too. It's a real family show, this Return for the 38th.
Right.
From family on your side, and people can bring their families, right?
Of course, yeah, of course.
They should. I hope they do.
But it's also because we're doing these pieces. These are pieces that have been in the life of humanity for hundreds of years, and it's a beautiful thing to connect with the human beings that wrote this music, that performed it throughout decades and decades and decades. There's a connection, throughout time with people, not just the people that are singing and that are listening, but with all of the people that have gone before us, and how they've developed the performance practices that we now adhere to. There's something very special about, again, it's like live concerts, but this is also connecting with generations that come from before. So there's a great humanity in what we do. At least I feel this. Sometimes I'm conducting away, and then I'll go sit down while the soloist is singing something, and I look out at the audience and I look at the chorus members, and I think, what an incredible experience we're having, all these human beings with all their separate lives and all their problems and all their joys, their loves, their hates, their whatever. And now they're all here feeling this at exactly the same time. Oh, I mean, that's amazing. You know, it's amazing.